Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Nadya's Entrepreneurial Corner. I am really excited to be sitting here today with a phenomenal human, Dorothy Illson of Needle's Eye Media and The Gig. Welcome to the corner. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Dorothy and I met an elite entrepreneur mastermind, something that I was really anxious about doing from the get because of the investment. But, the relationships that I've been able to build, including with Dorothy, have been phenomenal. And that's really what we want to dig into today, the importance of building relationships and how that is so important for both your professional lives as well as your personal life. I've noticed a lot of people actually struggle with building relationships, or they associate like networking with just like, hello, like here's a card and moving forward. And that's not really building relationships. And this applies to both the digital landscape online as well as in person. And so before we dig into this subject, I would love to learn a little bit more about your journey and what you do. Could you share a little bit with us about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I really kind of took a twisted path into entrepreneurship.
Twisted.
So I studied accounting, and my goal all the way through school was, I wanted to get a job with one of the big four accounting firms, right? So I did my internship at PwC here in Chicago, and accepted a full-time offer with them going into my last year of college. And really throughout the course of that next year, I'm kind of stumbled into this whole world of personal development. I started reading, all these books, reading Think and Grow Rich, and really kind of diving into the world of personal development. And it really made me realize that I was going into the accounting field for all the wrong reasons. I was not excited about it. It was really all about this, very kind of societal, stereotypical idea of what it meant to be successful, and really had nothing to do with my actual interests or passions, or what I wanted to spend my days doing. And so really ended up taking a big leap of faith and gave up that job offer 2 weeks after I graduated. Moved here to Chicago anyway, and through a series of fortunate events, ended up meeting the co-founder of a startup here, and became the fourth employee of that company. And so, over the next few years, I really watched that business, go from zero. It was really brand new when I started, to they got to over 10 million in annual revenue in those first 3 years, almost entirely off the back of Facebook ads.
What type of company was it? What was the industry?
Yes, it was actually a meal subscription service. So they ended up getting acquired by one of the biggest names in that space, for over $200 million a couple years after I left. Yeah, so hugely successful, but it was really an incredible experience for me to see what that looked like in the very early stages, because this company was bootstrapped, and really was that kind of startup that you have in your mind where, we're all wearing so many different hats. It was very scrappy. It was very fast paced, and it was so much fun. There were so many challenges, but I really thrived in that, chaos of, just needing to figure things out, day by day, and solve problems. And, I know we want to talk about relationships, and I think what's so cool is that, that is really where it started for me. Some of the relationships that I developed during my time at that company were what ultimately, got my foot in the door to, when I left there, to start freelancing, running at the time just Facebook ads for clients on my own, and really starting this journey as a freelancer. And so I think that it's really interesting. In hindsight, you can see kind of how each thing led to the next, how these relationships became so important in my journey in ways that I never could have predicted. But to continue with kind of the overview there, I left that startup. I freelanced on my own for about 2.5 years, and then slowly started hiring a team, and freelancing as a media buyer morphed into what is now almost over 6 years later, a 7-figure paid traffic agency. So it's really been an incredible journey, and one that I'm so grateful for.
That is so cool. And we definitely have a lot of synergies, because I also have been very into the startup space. One of our first clients, or my first clients, I was more or less freelancing at this time, was Start Engine, which is a big fintech platform. And so I was taking so many startups through building their campaigns and looking under the hood, like what's going to work, what's not. And then in that freelance journey also was like, okay, it's time to start looking at building a team. So that's super exciting. Now, when you were kind of part of this fast growth journey at this startup, were you running those Facebook ads that helped contribute to that massive growth? I have to know.
No, I actually was not. So we had an agency that did that. I was working in marketing, although really, like I said, everyone wore so many hats. I mean, when I first started there, this was my first job out of college. The first thing I did when I got to the office every morning was, go down to the warehouse and, take the order sheets and stuff them into the right size boxes and get those ready for the kitchen to pack later. And then I would, come back upstairs to the office and, start working on email automations, and, I'd be doing customer service, and we'd be talking about funnels. And, so it really was, this, you do what it takes to get the job done. And I remember in those really early days, there were nights when we would finish up at the office at, 7:00, and, we would all drive over to the kitchen to literally help the kitchen pack orders until, 10 p.m. And so, it was something where, I really learned kind of what it takes to, to just push something forward and get the job done, and really have no ego around,
Right.
What that role looks like. So, the core of my role was marketing. But I really got to experience, in such a beautiful way, really what it looks like to bootstrap a company and to, grow
Right.
it, and, grow it really effectively.
A question I get asked a lot is, how did you know when it was time to transition from freelancer to entrepreneur? And what did that look like from you, from an infrastructural standpoint, as well as a mindset standpoint? Can you share a little bit about your experience in that transition?
Yeah. Right. So, when I decided to start freelancing, I had been exposed to the paid traffic world, through, being at this startup. But, as I mentioned, I was not managing our ad account. That was not something I had direct experience in. And so, I hired a mentor to really teach me from the ground up, how to do this and how to get results for clients. So I started taking on, smaller clients at first, and, really just working my butt off to deliver for them. And, as I did deliver and, prove I could get results, those relationships deepened, and, those referrals then turned into, bigger and bigger clients. But I got to this place where, I really recognized my own limitations, and, not so much limitations, but the things that I was really good at and the things that I knew that someone else could do better than me. So copywriting, for example, I think was the first big one for me, of realizing, okay, I'm able to write these ads, well enough to get the job done. It really worked for me for the first couple of years, but it got to a point where I was like, I know that there, is someone out there that can do this so much more effectively than I can. And one of my first hires in the business was a gentleman by the name of Jim Hamilton, who's actually still with Needle's Eye Media today. And, as soon as he joined the team and, began writing all of the copy for our clients, it was like, I watched our lead costs, our CPAs, plummet by, 25, 30%, because he was better at it. He is better at it than I am. And so with each hire and with each kind of step in that direction, it allowed me to spend more time working in my, you hear about your zone of genius, right? And it's so true. It allowed me to really focus on what I was great at. And, really, I think for me, that was the relationship side of the business. It was finding the right clients and really nurturing those relationships, and, really taking care of, of our clients, so that they really felt and knew that, we cared about their businesses as deeply as, as my own. And that really showed in the results that we, we drove, and really kind of solidified our positioning as this boutique agency that is very selective with who we work with, but goes very, very deep, and gets,
Yeah.
results that are reflective of that.